Yeah. Those are the victory horns, ladies and gentlemen, and they sound for Dricus du Plessis and still Knox. That is right. Dricus du Plessis defeats Israel Adesanya. 4th round rear naked choke submission. And we're in the still Knox era. We were there earlier, but he is now officially has a title defense under his belt. Hey guys, I'm Jed Rashu. This is MMAfighting.com, and this is the UFC 305 post show. Took us a while to get here because the post presser lasted a very long time, and as a result, skeleton crew this evening. Mike Heck is actually on his way to the airport right this moment. He was planning to be here and in this chair, but he's going up to New York because there's a press conference tomorrow that we're going to be covering as well. So you got me, and you got the baddest stash in the game, the man without sleeves. So I actually think he might have sleeves on. I wasn't really paying attention. Mr. 3024 himself, Casey Lydon.
With the sleeves. Look at
those sleeves.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know. Like I'm the just you and me. I felt like, having the gun show be, I don't want to take the attention away from the champ. This it's the Knox era. What is his nickname? Still
Knox.
Okay, I'm not gonna recognize that.
His nickname is DDP, which is totally
yeah.
fine. Plus, I appreciate it. You didn't want to intimidate me since I'm in the host chair and distract me with the big biceps. I understand it. But Casey, we got a lot to talk about tonight.
Yes.
So before we do, same as always, guys, we'll answer questions at the end. So pop your questions down into the chat. Super chats get priority. But we got to talk about UFC 305 and what went down, because this was a big event, Casey. Not the biggest pay-per-view of the year, but we talked about it a lot this week, and the build-up maybe felt a little demure until kind of we get to the press conference, and then that heated things up. Mm-hmm. But this main event was a fight I was personally extremely interested in. And the fight delivered. I mean, it was a very, very good main event. But in the end, Dricus du Plessis backs up all the trash he's been talking for 18 months, 2 years, and finishes Israel Adesanya in a fight that he was having sort of a tough time working through. And so, Casey, I'll give my thoughts in a minute, but I do want to ask you, what do you make of DDP and sort of this incredible run he's on right now?
I think everyone's kind of saying the same thing. It's like he's an incredibly ugly fighter, the way he fights, and it works for him. I don't quite get it. It shouldn't work. He seemingly just runs in like this, and how does that work? But yet, for some reason, at middleweight, at his level of toughness, his strength, his heart he does it. And I'm not shocked. I picked Izzy to win, but like I always say, I love being wrong. And dude, DDP did it, and he did it the same way he's always done it. Once he made that fight ugly and made it his type of fight, and he broke Izzy, and eventually Izzy wilted, and he got the submission. I'm actually very, very impressed with DDP. I'm on board now. I get it. I moved him up. I moved him up. He's my guy now. And
there you go.
I did it. And I hate changing opinions. That's not me. But it feels weird. But I thought Izzy was the guy. I thought he had a bad night against Strickland, and I think he did. But I don't want to say this was the best Izzy we've ever seen, but this was a much better version of Izzy that we saw tonight that fought Sean Strickland. And DDP handled it, took his lumps, made adjustments, and made it his fight. And he finished Israel Adesanya and finish of a submission of all things. And a rather, I don't want to say easy rear naked choke, but
once it happened, it happened.
Yeah, once it happened, yeah. He broke him down, and just constant, I don't want to say Izzy broken sounds like a bad term. I don't know, like broken, but
No, it's fine. You
yeah,
gotta you're in the commentator chair. You gotta be more okay with saying
yeah,
stuff like that right now. You gotta be more
yeah,
comfortable being like,
yeah.
hey, because it's true. And like I have been leading the DDP bus for a very long
You
time at this
have been.
point.
I'll give you credit for yeah. You have been,
I
and I wasn't on board. I was like, it's just too sloppy. I don't get it because
Yeah,
I like
that's why
that
it's
I like
funny.
that I like I love that slick, like highly technical kickboxing, and I thought
That
it
ain't
was
him.
that ain't him exactly, and which is goes back to kind of why I think we all love this stupid sport is because DDP and that style of fighting is now the middleweight champ, the defending middleweight champ, and
Hmm.
it's unreal. Something I didn't foresee a couple years ago when I first saw him enter the UFC, but here we are, and I think it's kind of awesome.
It's, I mean, that you kind of hit the nail on the head. One of the big reasons I love this sport is that's an entirely unique style to him. Like, really, like nobody else does, or probably even can do what he does in there. And I have been very high on him this whole time, partly because I think he's funny, but I also like he is exactly the kind of fighter who just breaks everyone's brains. And even after this, a ton of people, they still are sort of begrudgingly having to accept that he's the best middleweight in the world right now because, and the most succinct way that I came up to kind of put this through is he is technically bad, but he is tactically brilliant. And I loved his post-fight presser. We just finished with that not that long before we went live, where he was just talking about the game plan. And like, it's probably not a game plan most people would come up with, but it also espoused like a very clear understanding of the fight he was getting into because he was like, yeah, we knew that Izzy was going to come in here and not make the same mistakes that he did against Sean Strickland. I also want to be pressuring forward. So we knew Izzy was not going to do that. He was going to make a point of trying to hold his ground in the middle and try to back me up. And so we use that because sure, he can do that, but that's fighting against his type, and fighting against the way you want to fight is a very difficult prospect round over round. And so Izzy would come out and I would hold my ground in the center and make him be uncomfortable. And then as the round progressed, my coach would tell me, all right, now it's time for you to push him back. And so I was just wearing on him and wearing on him. And then as the went on, all of that started to add up and I started to have more success. And it's like, that's honestly like exactly what happened. If you're watching that fight, like, yeah, actually, this all makes sense. He sussed out a brilliant game plan. The minutia of it is tough, right? Like a lot of that's ugly. A lot of what he does is not what you would teach anyone to do, but it's all part of a cohesive thing that works together and makes him really damn hard to beat. He is one of those fighters, Casey, who I would not be shocked if anybody beat him. Like almost anybody in the weight class. It would not be like, I can't believe that they beat him. But I will pick him over every other middleweight in the world right now because he's got a really good fight IQ and he has enough tools and knows how to deploy them super well. At some point, like it probably will hurt him that he is just technically atrocious in spots. But all I'm saying, man, the two best middleweights of this generation, he stopped them both. So this dude is a top 5 pound for pound fighter in the sport right now. And it is the best thing in the world. So y'all got to start. I'm glad you're on board. The rest of you, if you're not there yet, you got to start respecting him because at the end of the day, it's not about how pretty it looks. It's about how effective you are. And he has proven to be extremely effective in the cage.
I will say I did enjoy the way DDP handled himself after the victory and in the post presser. I think I don't want to say the word classy, but it didn't leave me with a bad taste in my mouth after the
No,
victory. Yeah, I thought he was like, oh, okay, he won. He gave the proper respect. I think Izzy deserved, but while also saying, yeah, but I'm freaking DDP. I'm the champ. Too. And yeah, I like. No shade, man. It was like great performance, great fight, great fight by both gentlemen, and I was just I was enjoying just being a fan for tonight and just watching the fight. It felt good, felt good. And this was a fight week I was kind of dreading because I thought it could get really ugly, and luckily it didn't get that kind of weird Colby Covington kind of ugliness feel. It's just these guys had beef, but the bigger overtones of Africa weren't really playing this week. I think it was just all right. We're just gonna fight this week, and I enjoyed that. And it was good. It was a good fight.
They tried to distance themselves from that a little bit.
I think
and then
so.
It still
I don't
cropped
think
up
I don't
a
think
bit,
either of them
but
wanted to go there this week. Yeah.
They both pretty clearly didn't want that to be the main narrative here. But they leaned into it a little bit, sell pay-per-views, do the thing. But you're right. At the end of it, there's a big clip going viral. They're hanging out backstage. Both men gave a ton of respect to each other in their post fights and their post pressers. Credit to Izzy, handled the loss super gracefully, and obviously credit to the champion because he is still the champion. And along those lines, Casey, we theoretically have a next opponent for him. And I'm interested to see your take on if you think this will happen, because Dana White said heading into this that Sean Strickland's up next. He's the guy who deserves it. We could argue about whether that's true or not. Alex Pereira even kind of threw out a little troll there of, I got one more trip to 185 left in me, but that's clearly not happening right now. Pereira has a title fight booked against Khalil Roundtree, but it seems like Sean Strickland is next, even though DDP said at his post presser, I think Robert Whittaker deserves it more, particularly if he beats Hamzat. I believe that he should get the shot. But the thing I'm interested in, do you think this will happen? Because Dana White said that if DDP wins, they're going to South Africa. Dana White was not there in Australia, but DDP won, and he won convincingly. This was not a split decision or no controversy. That was a stone tap, a clean win. Is his next fight in South Africa?
Oh, in South Africa. No.
I mean, Dana promised, so
Well, then definitely no. No, it should be in South Africa. I thought this fight should have been in South Africa, but if DP's next fight will be in South Africa, cool. I just don't believe it. I just don't believe it because that's something I would like to see, and I don't get good things from the UFC very often. So I'm gonna go no, but unless I'm not. I mean, I know Johannesburg. I don't know any other cities in South Africa. I know there's gonna be other cities, but
Cape Town.
Cape Town, yeah. I don't know. Are they paying a
That's
tourism?
the extent to what I got for South Africa. I won't pretend to know more.
Yeah. No, because the UFC only goes to places that pay them money, so that's the reason I'm saying no. But if the South African Tourism Board wants to write a check, heck yeah, the UFC will be there.
It seems unlikely. I wish it would happen. It would be really cool.
And cool.
They could do a bunch of ton of promotional stuff that's really interesting and really lean into the Africa stuff. I would say by far the most likely outcome is this man fights in Las Vegas next. And they do Sean Strickland DDP 2 in Las Vegas. But that'll be okay. But I do also want to talk about Israel Adesanya because, one, you've touched on it. I thought this was a very, very good performance from him. I was not unsure what we would get. I don't think that this is the best version of Izzy we've ever seen, but he did say in his post-fight that this is the best he's ever felt. And for a lot of this fight, he looked really, really good until the wheels kind of fell off. But at the end of it, Casey, he gets on the mic and DDP kind of sets him up to possibly retire. Daniel Cormier kind of puts the ball in his court. Hey, are you trying to retire after this? And he hits him with the Wolf of Wall Street. I'm not leaving. Seems like Israel Adesanya is sticking around for the long haul. And even in his post presser said he's not interested in trying 205. He was going to stick around at 185. Didn't have a name, didn't call anything specific. But talk to me about, kind of Izzy's performance and sort of where you want to see him go from this.
Coming into the fight, if the same Izzy that fought Sean Strickland came out, in the sense that he got hit once and he just clearly didn't have it in him to take it back. But I don't think that was the same Izzy. I do think we got the best version of Izzy that we could possibly get right now tonight, and that's why I don't think
I
he'll
agree.
retire. But that's not the best version of Izzy we've seen. But I think that is the
Correct.
best version of Izzy that we can possibly get at the age of 35 and what would you say 140 something
It's
combat.
144 fights now, I believe.
Yeah, so he's cut weight and made the walk.
Sanctioned fights. Sorry.
Sanctioned fights
144
140 times.
sanctioned fights.
That is just stupid, unreal. But
It was an average of 10 fights a year.
yeah, and I think they said this was his biggest break from professional fighting and what
This is
15 years
biggest
ever.
break from professional fighting since 2009.
Jeez, yeah, 15 years.
So
I mean,
in 15
yeah,
years.
15 years.
And during those 15 years, he was averaging 9 to 10 fights a year.
That's wild. So, if we had got that kind of version of the Strickland version of Izzy, if he came out tonight and he lost a tepid unanimous decision, he would have retired. But I think this version of him, no, he'll come back. We'll get a couple more fights out of him. Who's gonna fight next? I don't know. I don't know where Izzy is. Is Izzy the second best middleweight in the UFC? I don't quite know because he's not gonna. I don't think he's gonna get better than this tonight. That's the issue. He's just gonna get older, more war torn, battle torn, just from all the camps and everything. So we will see him back, but maybe kind of like I don't want to say kind of Anderson Silva-esque after he lost the titles. You know, who did Anderson? Yeah, kind of like just fun fights, I guess. Not really
Some
in
fights
title
against
contention.
some other contenders.
Yeah, and I'm just interested. I don't know where. I don't know. I guess we have one more fight to see where Izzy really is. Is he the second best guy, or is he just a good middleweight now? I don't know. So
he's pretty definitively the third best guy, but you can't put him above Strickland or DDP.
No, well, okay, well,
you both beat the hell out of him.
2-3, right, right there. But okay, not second best, but a contender rather. Like Anderson was fighting for a while in the UFC, not as a contender. I'm interested to see how Izzy wants to handle that. Is he okay with just? Remember, even I guess a BTO we're talking about. Could Izzy be like another like Arlovsky, where he's okay with just taking fights and stuff, which I don't think he will be. I know it's very different. You have to change your fighting style, but I expect Izzy to come back one more time because of his performance tonight, and I think he still thinks he has it in him. But yeah. Oh, I saw him reading the comments. Yeah, it's kind of comparing Izzy to Weidman. When Weidman lost, it's like a little bit.
We'll see, and that's the thing. It can be so like this. Because one of the reasons I picked DDP to win this fight coming in, outside of DDP is my boy, is I do believe that Izzy is just not at his best anymore. I was very impressed with how good he looked, which means he still has plenty of juice left in the tank. It's not his best. He's never going to get back to there because that's not how time works, frankly. And I would say that he probably wore damage a little less well in this fight than he has historically, but showed a lot of good things. I am enthused enough by this that he should continue fighting. I'm glad he said so, and I think he will. But there is always the chance that the next time out they give him somebody tough. I've seen some people throw out Bo Nickel. It's kind of weird, but like, okay, if you want to do it, sure, and kind of see how that goes. And there's a world where this precipitates a really bad decline, or he goes out there and he just has some cool fights. The one I would love, Yuri Prochazka is saying he's coming to 185 if he can. I don't believe that man can make 185, but if he does, let's have him fight Izzy. That'd be fun as hell. So like, we can do fun things with Izzy, and this was a good enough performance where I am, to steal Michael Chandler's word, emboldened by his choice to stick around and continue competing. Perhaps not on the same schedule he used to. 3-4 times a year is a lot. But, a couple of times a year, just fight some fun dudes in middleweight. Or I know he said he didn't want to do 205, but maybe take a flyer up there to 205. Before we talk about the next thing, I do want to ask you very, very quickly, because it doesn't matter now, but I am just interested. First 3 rounds of this fight were extremely competitive. I saw scores all across the board. Officially, two of the judges had DDP up 2 rounds to 1. We here at the watch party all had it 2 rounds to 1 for Izzy, though, like I said, really competitive, no issues with any scorecard. What was your scorecard before the finish happened?
I'm looking on our chat right now. I had 2-1 Izzy, so I think round 1 and round 3 had for Izzy, and round up until like the wheels came off for Izzy. Was he winning the 4th round, or was it kind of just competitive? I'm trying to remember.
He won the beginning of every round. And
Yeah.
then so he was winning that round, but then like that was why it was so competitive. Is Izzy won the beginning of every round and DDP won the back part of most of the rounds. So it was very, very interesting, and really glad we didn't have to go to the judges' scorecards. I think those could have been
Just
absolutely wild,
yeah.
but it didn't because the finish was a little weird. We had trouble figuring out exactly what happened. I thought that Izzy was hurt pretty quickly. I think that he was, but just it happened so suddenly, and whatever took Izzy out of it wasn't very clear. But then he started running away and turning his back, and you can never do that. And so,
Yeah, he was getting clipped of a few shots that we just have to assume that DDP just hits harder than it looks, because it kind of hit Izzy kind of the top of the dome, so kind of shook his equilibrium. It didn't really like give him that kind of that visual rocking back and forth, but it hit him right here, and clearly when he kind of took those couple of steps, his feet just weren't there, so the takedown was rather easy. And I think his ground game or defending the submissions, even in the second round, it was the second round, I think.
it was the second round,
yeah. It just something didn't look right. Just
He had what my old jiu-jitsu coach used to call I'm trying to remember the exact phrasing, a problem with getting fucked, where he would let it get too deep and then start defending.
Yeah.
It's like, you should have been defending 5 moves before where this happened. And credit to him, he fought out of that first one. Like, I honestly am still not really sure how he kind of got out of that first in the second round, how he got out of that situation. Like, that was just great effort, but that's easier to do when you're, 6 minutes into a fight and still fresh, as opposed to 18 minutes into a fight and you've been fighting your ass off this whole time, and that's the stuff that starts to drop off.
And to me, that's the big thing. What Izzy doesn't have anymore is that, I hate saying it, this is for AK. He doesn't have that dog in him like he used to have. Like that fifth round Kelvin Gastelum Izzy, that does not exist anymore. That version of him just isn't there. Technically, when he's winning, he can throw strikes, he can move like he used to, but when it gets dirty, and it just gets like, oh, technique doesn't matter more. Technique, that doesn't mean anything. We're just fighting. He can't beat the top guys when it's just a pure, we got to fight right now. And that's what that 4th round came down to. And DDP has it. Strickland has it still, but it's not with Izzy anymore. And that's the difference.
I honestly think that that's just age and the chin going.
Yeah,
because there was a moment at the end of the 3rd round when DDP started to come on strong, and Izzy decided, okay, I'm going to bite down. Like, I am not going to give ground and try and angle out. I'm going to throw as hard as I can and sit in this pocket and fire a shot at him. And he landed it. And that killed Robert Whittaker when he did that, so many years ago. And DDP ate it and then kept bombing on him. And I could physically see Izzy be like, that's not what's supposed to happen. I have to leave here now because I can't get rugged in here in the way he once used to, because a million fights. But we got other fights we got to talk about because this is just the main event. We will have spent the most on this, but co-main event, Kai Kara France showing out a 1st round knockout of Steve Erceg, aka Vinny Siggs. This was a weird fight coming in. Great fight. Everybody was excited about it. But the question kind of was, what are the stakes here? Erceg's coming off a title loss, losing to Alejandro Pantoja in a very competitive fight. Kai Kara France had a big layoff, had lost 2 in a row. Sort of weird to see where we go from here, but none of that matters anymore, Casey, because that was awesome. Steve Erceg has a very good first round until he doesn't, and a left hook floors him, and KKF follows up, gets enough good shots in, gets the fight finished. So, Casey, I mean, tell me how impressed you are with Kai Kara France after that.
I, I've been a KKF fan for a while. I'm glad he took the time off, take care of his health, get his life back in together. I think he said 6 months of zero contact, and he still got it. That boy brought the violence that the heavyweights are supposed to bring earlier in the card.
That was tough.
Like yeah. I love these little tiny 125ers are bringing the violence, not the giant heavyweights. But yeah, KKF, man, Kai Kara France still got it. I hope he gets the title shot. Thoroughly impressed. Until Vinny Siggs would have won this fight. Steve gets knocked out, and that's what happened.
Steve did get knocked out.
Steve got knocked out, and KKF, man, he looked great tonight. His timing was good, and yeah, once he adjusted, Steve's range and just Steve being the bigger fighter, KKF got in there, and the man's got heavy hands. And congratulations to him, and I hope he gets a title shot.
May legitimately be the biggest puncher in this weight class. Really impressive because it's not a long fight. You go back and watch it, but it is basically KKF figures out Steve Erceg in 4 minutes because he makes that kind of blitzing. He can't figure out the range, and then he makes that sort of charging. I'm going to throw big, long combinations. And Erceg kept backing up on a straight line. And KKF was like, if I add one more punch to the end of this, that left hook's going to get home. And it got home, and that was the end of the fight. Unbelievably good impressive performance from KKF. And to your point that you just made, Casey, title fight seems like it could be an option. It would be weird given that he's lost 2 in a row, but Amir Albazi is in purgatory. I'm unclear exactly where he is, but he's not fighting. And the rest of Flyweight is a bit up in the air. KKF did not call for a title fight. He, didn't really want to put himself out there specifically, though he definitely made it known that if they offered, he would be very interested in that. And so, Casey, you said you'd like to see him get a title fight. Is that because you think that he is the best answer, or like it would just be cool because it feels like, honestly, at this point in time, unless Tatsuro Taira goes out here, beats Royval, and they want to do a quicker turnaround, it feels like Kai Asakura probably has the inside track for getting Alejandro Pantoja next.
Kai versus Kai, then. That's all. A double Kai fight.
Kai Kara France did mention that in his post-fight presser, so he's the one true Kai.
Yeah. It's really, I think, really up to Pantoja and the UFC schedule. I think if they gave it to KKF off this, I mean, he was co-main event, a flyweight co-main event on a big pay-per-view. That's got to mean something. I love Kai Asakura. I think he's a great fighter, but this is the UFC, and he doesn't have a name over here yet. I think it'll be just weird bringing a guy in even Anderson Silva had to fight one fight before he got a title shot in the UFC. So I would expect just one fight for Kai in the UFC, Kai Asakura. So I think it's lined up for Kai Kara France. Big knockout. You have the highlight reel. Momentum's there. Just do it. I mean, Steve Erceg didn't call for a title shot, and he got one. So
yeah, I would love Kai versus Kai. I think that matchup.
But Kai versus Kai makes the most sense. I like that fight a lot. But if
maybe Albazi returns and gets a title fight, like maybe he's like, I'm ready to fight now.
Dude,
Screw it, let's chuck him in
when
there.
you said Albazi, I kind of had to go through my head real quick. I'm like, who?
He hasn't fought in a lifetime. It feels like.
I kind of forgot. Who was his last win against? Was it Kai Kara France?
I think it was let me look this up. I was going to say I think it was Kai Kara France.
Yeah, and I remember. It was a questionable decision, correct?
It was a contentious splitty, yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think both Kais are in the driver's seat right now.
I think there's a very real chance Kai Kara France gets it. It will all depend on timing, but all these things depend on timing. So, and that's the kind of performance that it kind of makes everybody forget about the other stuff. You can say, "Yep, this is pretty cool. Let's put him in there." It's a popular dude, not like a massively popular, but it would be an entirely reasonable match to make. Which brings us to our feature bout of the evening. And Casey,
Ooh.
this one was dope. This still wasn't the best fight of the day. That actually happened over at
Oh.
CGI, but this was a very, very good fight between Dan Hooker and Mateusz Gamrot. Stunningly, Mateusz Gamrot showed he had some hands, getting saucy with the mitts in there, but Dan Hooker takes a split decision win in a back and forth war. Dan Hooker on Tuesday will be top 5 ranked in the UFC. But before we get to there, does he deserve it? How did you score this one, Casey?
I think we gave it the same score. I think we both scored it for Mr. Gamrot, 2 rounds to 1.
Which 2 did you give him though?
Ooh,
They were all up in the air.
I don't actually. I got lost. Okay, the fight itself, I kind of got lost in the fight because I was like, this fight is freaking awesome. It was
really fun.
I'm not gonna say it's fight of the year, but like when we kind of have our list for fights of the year, we're gonna talk about this fight. And it was just a great fight. It was a great mixed martial arts fight. It had everything in it. Was okay. The first round. First round I had to give to Gamrot. I think that
I gave the first round to Hooker. So
Oh,
I went Hooker.
so we had two. We had 2-1.
Gamrot.
Yeah. So we had the same final score,
Gamrot.
but we had different rounds. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure I gave the first round to Gamrot. Either way, I had no issue with Hooker winning. It was a great fight. What was the question? Sorry, what was the question?
I just want to know how you scored it because
Yeah,
scores were all over the map.
Yeah.
We were doing the watch party here, and both Mike and Connor had it 2-1 Gamrot, maybe. But they gave Gamrot the first. I didn't. I actually thought Hooker's work at the end was the more significant blows. But it was one of those fights where any scorecard was acceptable. Very rarely do I say that, but literally any scorecard you put up there is fine. 30-27 either way. Both rounds were hard to score and extremely competitive. But ultimately, Dan Hooker wins. Biggest win of his career. He is now top 5. Afterwards, he was the most excited boy that ever there was. He was screaming all sorts of things in the cage, calling to fight everyone that ever has lived and just celebrating like this very major accomplishment for him because kind of out of nowhere, Dan Hooker is going to be top 5 lightweight and frankly on the short list for a title shot right now, given how the top of the lightweight division is working out. So since he wasn't specific with any call outs, who do you want to see Dan Hooker fight next? There are 3 obvious choices possible. Really, probably 2 obvious choices possible for him.
Oh, it's very late right now. Remind me who give me your list.
The three people above him in the lightweight rankings are well, I guess the 4, but he won't get Arman Tsarukyan, but Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier. Obviously, the Poirier would be a rematch, but, it was a very, very good fight. No one would be upset about that rematch. But it seems very like the obvious ones are Gaethje or Oliveira.
Yeah, Gaethje Oliveira. Personally, you can't lose with both those. I mean, there's a reason why
no
you
wrong
guys.
way to eat that Reese's.
There's like, what am I arguing? What am I trying to argue? Like, this is super awesome or this is super duper awesome. I don't know. Kind of the Gaethje fight. I kind of want to see the Gaethje fight a little bit more. But dude, there's Dan Hooker. But just this career comeback for Dan Hooker. I mean, I know you haven't been high on Dan Hooker. You kind of thought that the man was done.
I still think he's done. I think Gamrot was an exceptionally good matchup for him.
Oh, you think? Okay.
I picked him to win this one.
Oh, you did.
Because I was like, because Gamrot can't hurt him on the feet. And genuinely, Gamrot hurt him on the feet. I really do think Hooker's chin is not there anymore. Gamrot is just not the dude to show that. And Gaethje will kill him if they make that fight happen.
Okay.
But we'll see.
Okay.
We will see if it occurs. I could absolutely be wrong because he's tougher than a $2 steak, man. He was getting hurt, but
crazy
just
enough, yeah, to get in there.
he was just
Yeah,
too crazy. He out crazied it, and that's
yeah,
so impressive from him.
and that might be his number one attribute at this level. We talk about DDP just having that just relentless. I'm just gonna do this, no matter how many times you punch me. And Hooker just has this kind of like, I'm just crazier than you tonight. I'm just gonna be crazier, and like
Pumping up the crowd before the third round, just
dude, like,
almost over in Gamrot's corner because he is just so hyped about doing this.
um, dude, Dan Hooker is like, he's hitting that kind of that, I want to say, like almost like Derek Lewis type level where like we don't even care anymore who he fights, just put him in there. It's exciting, and Dan Hooker's that guy right now. And I thought Gamrot was going to steamroll him tonight, and that didn't happen. And man, Dan Hooker, man, I don't know. You can't go wrong. Personally, like the Gaethje fight, but yeah, I do fear for the Dan Hooker's brain in that fight, but I fear for that for anyone that faces Justin Gaethje.
Yes.
So yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah.
And a shout out to Mateusz Gamrot, who once upon a time Casey weighed in as the backup fighter for a lightweight title fight, and the only fighter in history who weighed in for one and didn't get one. As Dana White once famously said, if you weigh in, you get next. And Gamrot does not appear to be getting next, and I would guess is unlikely to ever fight for the belt after that. But I also thought this was among the best he's ever looked. Certainly with his striking, this was the best we ever saw, and nothing to hang your head about. Like we said, we both actually scored it for him. Very competitive fight, damn good one, and a very exciting one. So shout out to you, Mateusz Gamrot.
Awesome fight.
Last thing we'll talk about before we just do a bow on the rest of it. Very, very quickly, Jairzinho Rozenstruik wins a terrible, terrible fight. Not terrible. Not a good fight, and not the fight we were expecting. Though there were some high moments. Tai Tuivasa was very tough, but Jairzinho Rozenstruik wins a decision. But the talking point of this fight is not about the fight because it doesn't matter. Like Jairzinho winning this, he moves up like 2 spots in the UFC rankings. He's not fighting for a belt anytime soon. There's some questions about what Tai Tuivasa is going to do, but we could talk about that later. That doesn't need to happen on this show unless one of you asks for it. The thing to talk about here is the scorecards, Casey, because I do not say this lightly. One of the worst scorecards in UFC history. It has a very strong case to being the worst scorecard in UFC history. Not MMA history. Chase Beebe, Mike Easton will always and forever have that. But 30-27 Tuivasa in a fight where Tai got just bludgeoned for most of it. The scorecard is so bad that the judge who, let me see if I can find his, it's Howie something, but I don't remember what it is. The judge who authored it was removed from the arena and withdrawn from his duties on the card afterward. It was that bad. And so, Casey, the question very simply, is that the worst card you've ever seen, a scorecard ever seen submitted in the UFC?
We've seen singular rounds be horribly scored. 3 rounds where it was such a easy 10-9. There was no grappling. There was no like, well, he held him against the cage for 30 seconds, so I'm going to give him that round. None of that. Two excuses for this fight. One being he simply put the 10 and the 9 on the wrong side of the piece of paper.
Yep.
And I hope that is the issue, because the other option would be, I don't even want to say it out loud because it gave it a split decision. Right. It gave it a split decision, and we do have a lot of gambling involved in the sport, and there are lines on split decisions. So that's all. I just hope he just didn't understand what red corner and blue corner meant when you put the 10 and the 9. That's all I can hope for. It's so there's a lot of like, oh, judges are doing so bad. I'm actually one of those people, I don't think judging is as bad as people want to say it is, but this card might be the worst 3-round card for judging 3 rounds I've ever seen, especially at this level. Maybe on a lower regional level, whatever, but UFC pay-per-view, I don't understand it. There's no excuse for it. And the commission or whoever the regulatory body, did the only thing they could do, only responsible thing they could do is pull him out for
Yep.
any judging that night, and
He
hopefully
was going
there
to judge the
are
co-main, so
yeah
they yanked him
they
and
yanked
swapped it
him.
around.
So hopefully there's
Uh,
going to be real consequences for that type of egregious scorecard.
Seems unlikely he'll ever work again, but yeah, the only two rational answers are skullduggery or he just mixed up the inputs of the boxes, which is incompetence to a level that should not be tolerated.
Yeah.
But also seeing a lot of people being like split decision, he bet on split decision. Very obviously not, guys, because if you're betting on split decision, he gets scored at 29-28. He doesn't have to go 30-27.
Which is still weird. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like you could just that's very easy to just be like, no, I'm 29-28. And then that looks less egregious than 30-27. He 30-27, if you're trying to go that, it's because he took a point spread bet. But
Oh, okay. Well, either
never
way, yeah.
ascribe, yeah, never ascribe malice what can be solved by incompetence. And it's just deeply, deeply likely that he screwed up in a major way. But it was a very big thing that happened because not every day a judge gets fired mid fight card, Casey. So
History was made tonight. As he got submitted for the
history,
first time, and then by a judge got fired.
judge got fired in the middle of the card. Uh, we'll just do a rundown now of the rest of it. Carlos Prates knocks out Li Jiangling, the main
Ooh.
card opener. A very, very attractive finish right there. Carlos Prates probably going to get a top 15-ish ranked dude next. And guy has been a revelation since coming off the Contender Series. Walter Walker submits Justin Tafa. Bit of weirdness on this one, mainly because the commentary team is garbage. But Tafa gets in a heel hook, screams out in pain. I forget which referee it was, in fact, but stopped it because that is what you do. It is literally in the rules and has been in the rules for 20 years.
Every fighter knows that if you scream, they will stop the fight. And
scream is a verbal submission.
Yep.
It's been that way since Chael Sonnen did it, and this was a whole thing. Tafa loses his mind a little bit after. He's complaining about it. He's very upset with the decision. Dominic Cruz blames the referee in his like doing commentaries. Like, that's why this is a problem. The referees just can on a whim take opportunities from us, and nobody checked him. They just let him say absolute nonsense. But Walter Walker appropriately gets the W. Ricardo Ramos takes a split decision over Josh Coolabau in a fight. I will be honest, I did not watch any of it.
Dude, we're not going to talk much about it, but man, Coolabau just gave away that fight. I know
I heard that. I have no idea what happened. I was doing CGI stuff.
Oh, gave it away. No, I don't need to talk about it too much, but gave it away. So congratulations to Ramos. He dropped Ramos. He dropped Ramos with calf kicks, and he dropped Ramos twice. One time with a calf kick, but then he went down with him and almost got choked out and wound up losing that round when he could easily won. And in the second round, he dropped him with a calf kick too. And then instead of just telling him to get up, he sat there and did that little game where you just kind of kick his legs for about like 2 minutes. And so that, and actually Dominic Cruz said a good point. He's like, why is he doing like this? Those nerves come back. It's not like they start working again. It's not like forever. And then sure enough, Ramos, after like 2 minutes of doing that little leg thing on the ground, gets up, loses that round, but then wins the following round. So he wins when Coolabau shouldn't easily, that fight should have been over in the second round. Just insane what he was doing. Like, just made no sense. And he gave the fight away, and he deserved to lose, unfortunately, for him.
I think my actual biggest pet peeve is fighters accepting Ali Inoki leg kick. Like, it's unless you are actively just trying to burn clock away to win a decision that you already had on, like just let him up. Like you're not doing a single thing by like standing there and kicking. You are wasting time. So that's tough. I'll never go back and watch that fight. So that's a shame. Casey O'Neill gets back in the winning track. Takes a unanimous decision over Luana Santos. Again, I did not watch any of this. I was doing CGI stuff for us. Jack Jenkins stops Herbert Burns. I watched a little bit of this, just kind of beat the brakes off Herbert Burns, finally gets a finish in the third round. Tom Nolan, my guy, is a harder than kind of anticipated, but a very clean win over Alex Reyes in the early prelim main fight. Song Kanan UD over Ricky Glenn in the fight opener. Jesus Santos Aguilar pulls off a slight upset with a guillotine choke. Another Dom Cruz special in this one, as he adamantly declared that Stuart Nicole was not unconscious, despite Nicole face up and unconscious in the cage. No, he's not. He's not out. He's fine, and he's just staring at the lights with a vacant. Wasn't Dom's best fight or best evening? But before we get to the peeps, Casey,
It was very early in the morning.
everything
It was very
okay,
early in the
early morning. Fair point. Also, forgot to mention our bonuses that were given out. Unsurprisingly, Dan Hooker gets and Mateusz Gamrot get fight of the night. Kai Kara France and Carlos Prates get performance bonuses. I think all of those would have been exactly what you have guessed.
Yeah, a rarity. A rarity when UFC actually gives out the performance bonuses that make sense. So yeah,
they nailed it.
Right. Yeah,
nailed it. Casey, before we go to the peeps,
Yes.
pick one performance outside of the big four that really stuck out to you that you want to give a little shine to.
Carlos Prates. He
was good.
I think, let me double check. I think he is the first person to finish. Yeah, he's the first person. No, the first to finish Ligier.
First to knock out
with a strike. Yeah, with strikes, and it beat the freaking brakes off him. Man, that was vicious. It was beautiful, and that man's a future star. I don't know. I don't know how high he goes, up the welterweight ladder, but he is super exciting to watch, and just violence. I like it.
He's really fun. Coming off the Contender Series, he was in my B tier of prospects because he's older. But it was like, this guy's awesome. He's just a little old, so hard to be like, he's going to – I think he's like 30 something.
Oh, 31. He's 31, so –
yeah, exactly. So he's not old, but like 31 is not prospect age. You're a fighter.
Yeah.
You're a grown.
This is who he is right now. This is who he is.
Yeah, he is who he is as a fighter.
Yeah,
but who he is awesome as hell. It was incredibly fun from him. And yeah, like honestly, there's not a ton of other people I would give like huge props to. Early prelims were tough, but shout out to Jesus Santos Aguilar. Just opened the night. Did not expect that to come, and got a good finish on the resume. So, Casey, let's bring in the peeps because it's 4:20 where I am, and that's fairly late because Dricus du Plessis, God bless him, I love him. He took 2 hours to get to his post-fight press conference, which wasn't the coolest thing ever.
So, if you got any super chats, this is the time to put them in. So, first super chat is from Chase.
DDP is like the UFC in 2024. Horrible, but on top. Chase, I disagree. I mean, great. It's a great comment, and I think primarily you're just making a joke here. It is deeply funny to watch everyone struggle with who DDP is as a fighter, but he's really just like he's the version of like a pretty common thing where it's like, oh, this dude has a flaw, but it doesn't matter. Like, Jack Slack was writing about this the other week, honestly, in regard to Umar, where Umar has a couple of tendencies that like, oh, he just kind of like leaves his hands out there and retreats backwards and you can clip him. And that's not a flaw if no one can take advantage of it. It is, but like, it's not until somebody makes you pay. That's DDP. He has a lot of flaws, but no one's taking advantage of it, so it's fine. Like he has built a style that's very unique and is working extremely well because of the things he does well. He does really, really well. He is very, very smart. He's a hoss and he's tough as hell. And he is not just physically tough as hell. He is mentally tough as hell because it is hard to not get like deterred. Izzy was ripping him to the body like shots. Just digging in with beautiful. The nastiest hooks to the body. It was so good. It was so smart of him because DDP likes the high guard. And DDP would eat him, and a couple of them he would sit back for a second, but then he'd be like, okay, recompose. I am back to doing the thing I want to do. You are not taking him out of what he wants to do. And that is like a lot of fighting. And he is very, very good at staying committed to how he wants to fight, despite whatever the hell you do to him.
He has a little bit of that. What you and me love about Yuri, where like pain ain't real.
Yep.
Pain ain't real.
Pain ain't
Yeah,
real. It's fake. He has a
it's fake.
lot like he and Yuri is one of my dream matchups. I would love that so much.
Ooh, yeah,
It would
yeah.
just be the most fun anarchy of all time. And it is so silly, but it really is just him being like, yeah, that hurt, but it's okay. Like
Yeah,
I'll just keep doing it.
I'll just keep doing it.
And that is, it's not like, because you can see him get hurt and get tired. It's not like when you hit Max and Max is still just there. It's like, and that's kind of even more daunting to be like, I hurt that dude
Mm.
and he's told me it hurt him. And then he's still just in my grill doing this. That's it's fucking exhausting, man.
I think what guys like DDP kind of I love it because like if him and Izzy like some fights if these guys fight 10 times this guy's winning 10 out of 10. I'm not sure if DDP's victories, his last victories over Whitaker, victories over Strickland, victories over Izzy. I don't think he wins 10 out of 10. I'm not even sure he wins 5 out of 5, but somehow he wins them that night, and that's what matters in this game. That the best version of you shows up that night. Just it just needs to be 1% better than the guy across the cage from you, but somehow he's on that roll, and he's just that 1% better, and he wins these fights, and it's very unique to watch. I like it.
He is genuinely one of the most unique champions we've had in a very long time. And I hope he puts together a run because I've said this a bunch this week. He is
I'm
a
on
cross
the
of
train.
Yoel Romero
Yeah.
and Justin Gaethje, and those are two of my favorite fighters of all time for very different reasons. And I love this dude. Like I hope he reigns for a little bit so we can keep having this sort of just absolute absurdity. Like even I implore all of you, go find the clip of the finish. The finish is the ugliest, best finish of all time. Like he's throwing the just grimiest right hands as he's running away. They're just like whipping
Yeah,
arm
just
punches. Every single one of them lands to a retreating Izzy. Every one of these things lands. And then Izzy just kind of falls over
falls, just
and he
like I'm
immediately just steps into the hooks
just
and
the
it's
whoop,
over.
it's over. Like
It's the
Like
best.
as I was watching this, I didn't even have time to get like excited or even like I was just like, oh, it's over. Yeah, DDP
Yeah.
won. I was just like, oh,
It,
it was just
Yeah,
like,
it was so weird. It was such a weird finish because Izzy starts stumbling. Then he gets up and does the max point to the ground thing and then immediately tries to run away. And then that's when Izzy starts, or that's when DDP starts
yeah,
throwing the like weird right hands and it all ends. Like it was so out of nowhere for it to all end. But
like
yeah, man, he's
like you would
horrible, but
think,
he's great.
yeah, yeah, horrible but on top, just like.
He's
Thank you, Chase.
What I really like about him, Casey, is, and I was talking to Shaheen about this in Slack earlier. Everybody else's reactions to him is my reactions to Brian Ortega, where I'm like,
Oh.
he's bad. He is bad. How does he keep winning? Everybody else feels that way about DDP, and so it makes me feel like I get this. Now you guys understand where I come from.
Imagine, yeah, like, and Ortega was this close away from being
Yeah.
featherweight champ too.
Yeah,
It's
Ortega
just,
was extremely close to being
yeah.
featherweight champion, and I was just gonna be like, he's bad. What's happening? And there he goes. Like,
This
it's
sport makes
great.
no sense.
The
All
sport
right.
makes no sense. It's the best.
All right.
Hammer Parsa. DDP fights like a gorilla on roller skates. Honestly, that's actually a fairly good approximation.
How are you gonna stop a girl on roller skates? You can't. How are you gonna?
Not, I'm like, and that's
Ain't no
it, man. He
technique.
is a physical hoss in there. He hits really hard, even if it's ugly. And that's a really damaged, like that's a dangerous dude, man. Just I'm gonna charge in. I'll throw like 6 punches. One of them will land, and you're not gonna like it. Because like Izzy was doing such a good job of like not retreating in straight lines and pivoting out and dipping and blocking, but just like a reckless 5 punches. The last one would get home, and then you'd see Izzy get hit and be like, ah, shit.
Shit.
It works. You throw enough, one of them will land.
Thank you, Hammer
Thanks,
Parsa.
Hammer.
All right, super chat from $10. Super chat from Stephen Dawson.
$10. Do you think we'll see more judges getting pulled for questionable scores like with Ty and Jairzinho? And didn't watch Hooker and Gamrot because closing in my work, but Hooker seemed like he stole a win. We talked a lot about this. I don't think we'll see more because they're
I've
not going to
seen
pull
that.
it unless it is so egregious that it is truly one of the worst scorecards ever authored, which this one is. Um, I hope we don't see more because that means we're just letting any jackass get in there and judge a fight. But
But I like the precedents out there now. The now
yeah,
like other
I
countries
like
like,
that they
oh
did it
yeah,
because ultimately it wouldn't have mattered as Kai Kara France ends up, but I believe he was scheduled to judge the co-main event.
hmm,
And if like that happened, and then okay, this dude's judging, okay, like buckle up, let's see how this goes. It would have been very very bad. So, like you said, Casey, I think the precedent being set is very good. I doubt we'll see it all that often. And we talked a lot about the Hooker Gamrot fight. It's not stole a win. There's no wrong answer to who won that
yeah,
fight. Like it,
I, yeah.
the how the
Oh,
scoring system works means someone had to win. Um, and I would even suggest that like Pride rules, Hooker did win. Under non-Pride scoring,
yeah,
I scored it for Gamrot. Have no issue with how it broke out.
yeah, no problem. What else I wanted to say about that? Oh yeah, I won MMA, the great website MMA Decisions, and it was actually split 50-50 between the media
That totally
members.
makes sense.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, okay. So like,
And
I kind of go there 'cause sometimes I'm like, man, am I just seeing something different? And I looked and say, okay. So
And
it,
MMA Decisions doesn't obviously track this. Would be willing to bet a whole lot of money that if they went and got the round by round breakdown of everybody they
we are
accumulated
crazy too.
all over like it would not be like everybody agrees that this is the swing round. Every round would be up for grabs. They were all very competitive and in different ways.
You're right. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, most times if a close fight is usually one round, three
Yeah, this is a
rounds
swing
could have
round.
gone either way. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you
That
much.
it is one of the very few fights that 30-27 either way, totally fine.
Where do you put this on fight of the on top of your head? What do you put this as in terms of fight of the year?
I think it's top 10 because this year has been fairly weak for fights of the year thus
Yeah.
far. Not like a ton of standouts there. And this was a really fun scrap. I don't think ultimately it's going to kind of keep up with some of the other ones. Let me pull up my list of what we're looking at for fight of the year. Along the fight of the year thing, I will also shout out. I know that this is not a grappling podcast, and like half the people
Oh,
watching
no, please
won't
talk
care.
about it though.
Uh, CJI had a lot of issues, and it was fun enough, and it was free. Shout out to that YouTube.
Yep.
The Cade Rutolo Andrew Tackett semifinal in the under 80 kilogram, legitimately one of Casey. Did you watch it? Because it was
I saw.
legitimately one of
I
the
was
best
watching it.
combat
I was watching
sports.
two things at once, but I was like, oh my god, yeah, it was. I'm a big Cade fan. I saw Cade's
Yep.
match yesterday, and I caught like probably 50% of the match, and yeah, it was an amazing match. Yeah. So
It will be on my top five. Legitimately one of the very best combat sports competitions of this year. No questions asked. Hooker Gamrot, kind of looking at this, there's not like a ton of them. Like I think off the top of my head, Max Gaethje is gonna win it. It even though I'm actually not really
I don't.
sure how good of a fight that is,
It was pretty
frankly.
one
Like
sided.
it ha- it's less one-sided than I remember when I rewatched it, but also the
Max did get
end is
dropped.
just so iconic that I think that is going to buoy it up and it's going to win. And I don't really have any issues with that, but there just haven't been that many good ones. Islam Poirier, like there's some stuff, but this one could
Yeah.
easily slot in a top five, and I don't think anybody would be
Yeah.
wrong for that at this point in time.
Yeah. No real great standouts this year. Just
Like,
give me a lot of good
like
fights, but
Poirier
yeah.
BSD is really fun, but it was also 7 minutes, so
Yeah, we had Umar Sandhagen.
Yeah, Umar Sandhagen, good fight, but
If I
that's one of those that wasn't that fun of a fight, but it was
technically,
very
yeah,
high level and good.
yeah,
So it'll kind of just depend on your flavor. I would say it's almost certainly in the top 10 right now, though.
yeah. Okay, cool. All right. But thank you, Stephen. All right.
Thank you, Steven.
We got another one from I think a different Stephen.
Looks like a different Steven. Jed, take your lap. Nose job DDP is a thing. Where does he stack up on your hot takes? Also, I think people would agree Big Mike Heck is the best interviewer in the game. Respect Ariel, but Mike's my guy. Uh, I respect Ariel, and I will say that Ariel is the best interviewer in the game. I love Mike. Mike knows that I love him, but I don't know. It's just Ariel, man. It's just there's nothing wrong with losing to the GOAT, baby. It's okay. I won't be taking a huge victory lap. I will just continue to love him. But man, DDP, I've been rocking with DDP somewhat ironically at first because he is just a deeply funny fighter to me. But also I love dudes like him. I love fighters who care more about winning than they do about losing. That is my favorite part of a fighter. And at his very core level, that is DDP. He is trying to win a fight. He is never trying not to lose a fight. And I love that. That is my favorite thing in a fighter. And he's got it in spades.
That's a great description. I like that.
I literally just thought that that just crystallized in my head. You have never watched that dude fight to not lose, which is that's the highest praise I can give somebody. Justin Gaethje is that way, and it's why I love him so. Carlos Condit, that way, loved him so. Casual fan, Jed the GOAT, the cannonball and the belly flop and the pool are goated moments. Used to dislike you and your takes, now I see the light. See, DDP wins and everybody just comes around, man. We're going to have more goated moments. Mike and I were talking about things. When I take over the MMA hour, we're going to make a lot of things fun, guys. So won't be this week. We got some time. But when that happens, we're working on a lot of other things behind scenes. Maybe a return of swing rounds. Maybe some on locations, watch parties. Some things are in the works, guys. So keep it locked here for the coming weeks. But I appreciate you, casual fan.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I felt way the fight ended with kind of Izzy and DDP kind of with just it being a great fight and them kind of showing respect to each other. Lots of respect. I felt like it just gave us good vibes coming out of the fight, and sometimes you don't get that. And it's just, it's kind of strange. You just got good vibes from it. Yeah.
Please go on.
Oh no, and like I said, I mentioned this earlier. I didn't have that vibe coming into this week.
Coming in,
coming in because I thought it was going to get kind of ugly, but it got there a little bit, but didn't go all the way. But
it actually didn't get ugly, really. It just got they just got at each other, but it wasn't this is latently racist in a way that's tough. It maybe touched on it, but it wasn't there, so it was fine. I don't give a shit about them making up and being friends. That's just never a thing that I care about. I enjoyed that it meant winning and losing means something to them both, but neither man felt defined by these actions in their post fight. And Izzy was pretty cool with it. It's yeah, man, I lost. Props to him for beating me. And I don't think they're going to be best friends, but they were adult about stuff afterwards, which adults, I just love when fighters are adults.
Yeah.
I don't need you to be best buds and put your beef behind you, but if you could just be adults, that's great.
Yeah. All right. Thank you much. Super chat from Steven again.
Steven! Dean Thomas on ESPN saying Izzy looked bad. GTFO. I didn't hear him say that. Did he?
I did. Yeah, he kind of.
I heard him make a crack about DDP, but I didn't hear him say that.
Dean was kind of he thought it was going to be a pretty confident, pretty one-sided victory for Izzy. So he was just really he just thought Izzy didn't look good.
Stuck in his priors.
Yeah. He just thought Izzy just didn't look good, and that he stuck by it. He said credit DDP showed up, but he said he sounded more like a disappointed dad. He said he had a year away, and I expected more from him. He's a coach. I get it. That's his opinion. I'm not hating on it.
I would just firmly disagree. I was we talked about it in BTL in the preview show. I thought there was a real chance that this fight would be miserable to watch because Izzy was so bad against Strickland, and not just bad against Strickland, which I think you could ascribe to he got hurt early and never recovered, but also he has been over the past several years just more timid in fights. He has been less willing to engage, to open up. He has fought not to lose so often that he has retreated and rescinded in some ways. And I thought coming off a loss like that, man, if this is just a slope that he is going down, this fight might be a terrible watch. He didn't fight like that at all. I thought he looked he looked as good as I could have imagined him looking, frankly. Not perfect, and certainly as the fight went on and he got more tired, a couple of bad habits broke out. But yeah, I just firmly disagree with Dean Thomas. I thought he looked really good, and it's just that DDP is really, really good, man, and no one can see it.
Yeah, I think Thomas just put a little bit unrealistic expectations on Izzy coming out of this because, like I said, Izzy's 35, 140 plus fights. Izzy's a human, We've seen him. He's a human. He cries, he's got emotions. He's got a life, and we're just watching him for these 25 minutes, and and just it's time, not time for him to retire, but it's just.
You can't stay at the top forever. You can't. 144 fights or whatever is just there's so many fights.
Yep.
So many fights.
So many.
Left lane. Pratis is a problem. A lot of guys going to be shooting. Man, that's true. It's really, really true. Like, I thought he could be good. I didn't think he was going to be this good this quickly. Just kind of all finishes in the UFC at this point. Casey, I think it looks to me like Pratis is going to get a ranked dude next because growing in popularity, if you just come out and you knock out your first 3 dudes in the UFC, all of them this year, by the way, just so we're clear, there are a lot of good contenders. Carlos Pratis is going to be in the Rookie of the Year list for 2024 for us. And I would say that he is still behind Silva. Gene Silva, to me, as our Rookie of the Year, hands down right now. But Pratis is making it a race, baby. I'm looking at the bottom of the top 15 right now for welterweight. You got Kevin Holland, who is now booked. You got MVP. You got Vicente Luque, who was booked, fell out. Neil Magny and Joaquin Buckley, who is now booked against Stephen Thompson. Jeff Neal is number 10. Any of those float your boat for a Pratis matchup?
Let's do the classic Magny. If you want to do the Magny Gatekeeper fight, that's
Gatekeeper test.
Yeah, that's the go-to. Let's see.
I want Vicente Luque. Because that fight would be fun.
I mean, the Magny fight might not be fun, but as far as just testing him to see if he's truly a problem, I think Magny's the guy the UFC puts out there. So I would go Magny. I think it's time for that. But if you want to go fun, go Luque.
Also, shout out to the camp because fighting nerds, they're just. I mean, they have 2 of the best dudes this year in Gene Silva and Carlos Pratis. And Kyle Borralho, I'm still cooking right now. Like that camp kind of broke out of nowhere, and they are making things happen for him. So big shouts to fighting nerds.
All right, a couple more super chats. $10 super chat from our friend Spencer.
Spencer Rudeminer. Jed moving up in the world. First new MMA hour host, and now on a UFC pay per view. I know, right? Like I'm just taking over. Going to be a very different vibe on the MMA hour, guys. So settle in. Professionalism out the door. We don't care about that anymore. DDP, great trash talker, set up fights with Sean, Rob, and Alex at the presser and beats these guys with indomitable will. Became a fan this week. Been seeing a lot of that on Twitter, a lot in the comments, Casey.
Right here.
I think. I mean, from you, I do not believe you are alone this week because I can totally see how the win over Strickland, and that many people don't even agree with, maybe that doesn't get you over in the way that you want, but it seems like people are really coming around. Not everyone, certainly some people are still going to be there, but feels like this was a big weekend for Dricus du Plessis as far as kind of growing his star power, etc.
Yes. And I think from our predictions for champs this year, the whole staff, I don't think anyone had DDP. Correct?
They didn't, and I am astonished that I didn't have him. I don't know why I picked Chimaev, but I did. I can't remember back to January when we did those, but when Guy put that in our Slack today, and I was like, that can't be right. There's no way I didn't pick DDP. He's my boy. And damn sure I didn't. I don't know what I was thinking.
I think I picked Izzy to get it back, but good try. But yeah, DDP, man,
Yeah.
he's the man now. He's doing it. And
pretty likely he's going to end the year as champ too.
Yep,
so.
yep. And one more super chat from.
Thank you, Spencer.
Don't thank him. Thanks, Spencer, again. One more from Spencer.
Still thank you, Spencer. Spencer Rudeminer, loving the Jed Casey combo. Completely agree with your guys' analysis on Izzy. Look good, bit older. Got to hear a breakdown of Poetan versus DDP, boys. Fun fight, thinking Alex, but not sure. So I mentioned this at the top of the show, Casey. Right after Alex Pereira, always a man who knows how to build fights, make sure things are happening. Tweets out a photo of the fight that he was watching, saying, I got one more trip to 185 in me. Obviously, that won't happen next. Pereira is somewhat surprised, not even somewhat, extremely surprisingly facing Khalil Roundtree later this year. Cool. And in the post-show or in the post-press conference, DDP kind of even downplayed it at the moment, saying he's got stuff to handle. I got to defend my belt a couple times. And frankly, I'd rather go up to 205 to fight him, which, makes sense. Of course, he would want to do that. But let's say they happen. Let's say this fight gets booked somehow. Khalil Roundtree falls out. They decide we're going to do this full steam ahead. How do you see DDP versus Pereira going?
At what weight? At 205?
Let's call it at 185. But I think you know what? Do both. If you think the weight's going to make a difference, let us know.
Honestly, I feel at 185, DDP does have a good chance to beat Poetan. At 185, I just don't think Poetan's got the enough fluid in his brain from that big weight cut that he will get hit in the head a lot. And I'm excited to see the fight. I think 205 will be an issue for DDP though. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see. I don't want to see it at 205. Honestly, 185 though, I am very interested. And the great thing about Alex Pereira, honestly, if he gets through Roundtree, a potential fight versus the winner of DDP and Strickland too would be awesome either way. If Strickland's the champ, then a rematch with Poetan, and if DDP's the champ, whatever. Let's do it.
This Magomed Ankalaev erasure will not stand.
Who Casey. Is that? Who you say that name? I've never heard of it.
He's fighting Alexander Rakic later this year. I totally agree with you. I think at 205 is a real trouble for DDP. I think I might even still pick Pereira at 185, but DDP has a much better chance.
Just a much better chance. I still pick Pereira both ways, but obviously much better chance at 185 because I'm not sure. I don't know if I'd pick him at 185.
Let's even taking the shots just to being fully really back up to strength to defend takedowns because
all that, yeah.
I believe DDP is a very durable man. I don't believe people can get hit clean by Pereira. And if DDP doesn't immediately dive on the legs and get a takedown, he's going to get hit. And I think he'll die. So I would pick Pereira at light heavyweight for sure. I think he would be compromised enough that I would pick DDP, but I wouldn't feel confident in it. Great question, though, Spencer. Thank you.
Thank you, Spencer.
I honestly, I want to see that fight. The fight I want to see the most is I want DDP versus Yuri. I want that. That's now in my top 6 fights that I would like to be booked. But I would love for us to see DDP Pereira at one time if it makes sense.
If it makes sense, yeah. I want to see Yuri win a fight at 85 before obviously throwing him into a title shot.
Yeah,
that would just be weird. But
Yuri versus Izzy. If Yuri beats Izzy, do it. Just make me the happiest person alive. Yuri versus freaking DDP would be so fun, boys. It'd be so fun.
All right, two quick more super chats before we get out of here.
Boom. Love that for us. Casual fan pointing at the ground then running is the best. Yeah. Yeah. That Izzy's catching in the teeth a little bit on the old Twitter machine right now for legitimately there's a post out being like Izzy does the Max Holloway point at the ground, it gets submitted 17 seconds later because he immediately just starts moving away, trips over, gets tapped. Like it was very weird. I missed a little bit of Izzy's post presser, so maybe he got asked about it. I'm unsure, but it didn't seem like anybody was like,
Yeah, I don't
"Hey,
think
did
you
you
want to
get
ask about
hurt
it.
in there?" Like what? Because he put it off on. I made a mistake and let him go to the gable grip on the choke. Which sure, that was the last of the mistakes that was
Yeah,
made there. There were others beforehand that I didn't see him talk about, and I don't know if he ever did or if anyone followed up. But yeah,
no,
it was a
not
weird
not that
image.
not that not that specifically. Yeah, no.
Yeah, very very weird image to be like, let's do the Max thing after he gets tagged. All right, let's stand and bang. Never mind.
Ah!
No, oh, you're actually gonna do it? I was just joking around.
I thought I just wanted the cool photo, and like I don't know we're gonna do this shit. All right. And our very last super chat before we go to sleep.
Can you both give early thoughts on the full UFC 307 card? Thanks, Left Lane. We certainly can, but I got to pull up 307.
Yeah, I got
So this is the card that was announced this week. It is the Salt Lake City, Utah card. Alex Pereira, as we mentioned, taking on Cleo Roundtree Jr. A very weird fight that I'm super into because I was calling for that fight like 2 years ago. I love that fight a lot, even if it makes no
makes
sense
no
and is
sense.
deeply undeserved. I still think it will be fun. Co-main event we've known about for some time, though it did get officialized. Rocco Pennington defending her bantamweight belt against Juliana Pena. Announced this week, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson taking on Joaquin Buckley. I think this had previously been announced. Jose Aldo, Mario Bautista. Weird fight. Don't understand it. Roman Dolidze taking on Kevin Holland. That one got put together. A little bit slapdash there. Aljamain Sterling, Movsar Evloev. We already knew that was happening. Ketlin Vieira, Kayla Harrison. Again, a fight we knew was happening. So, Casey, early thoughts on the full. There are a couple of other fights, but this is the Carlos Esparza retirement fight against
Retirement
Tisha
fight.
Pennington is there, and a couple of other fights rumored and or associated, but they aren't significant compared to the ones we've spoken about. So, how do you think Salt Lake City's shaping up here?
Man, it's so weird. It, it man, I don't know. Honestly, it's like
It's
fighters
weird,
are.
but I like it.
Yeah, yeah, I do like it. It just doesn't seem right. Like Roundtree just shouldn't be in that title fight. But yeah, that's gonna be an
I
awesome
get,
fight. I
I'm
mean, it's
getting
gonna be
on
super
no
duper.
that one.
Huh?
I'm
Oh, yeah.
pumped.
No, I'm super pumped for it. But also like, man, the title should mean something. Just not because it's gonna be cool, but I guess we're at that. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. Oh man. Aldo Batista, like why?
It's really
Cool.
weird. That's the only fight that I'm like, I don't care for this. I
Why
just
isn't
think it's very weird.
Well, I don't understand. Why isn't Harrison in a title fight? Why is because they have to give it to Pena? Why? I don't get it. Why is
Because I don't know why Harrison's taking another fight other than F it, let's do it. Maybe they want to see her make 135 again
yeah.
just to do it. But yeah, it's kind of I think it is the we already had the Pena plan, then Harrison came in afterwards, and we're staying the course for the plan we had mapped out previously, which I think is a little bit silly, but it doesn't matter that much. It's fine.
Yeah, I just think that's weird. Yeah, just weird. I mean, the most
Several
part,
weird matchup
yeah,
here.
it's just a lot of weird matchups, but a lot of really talented fighters in weird matchups.
Mhm.
So yeah, UFC 307, Salt Lake City.
It is a we will think of this as the fight card that was not deserved, which is okay as long as the fights deliver because Pena doesn't deserve a title fight like by literally any definition. She has no wins over actively employed UFC
Yeah.
fighters, and hasn't fought for a lifetime, and it just doesn't deserve this. But Khalil Roundtree obviously doesn't deserve it. That fight at least will probably be fun. Buckley Thompson is fine, but like nobody's pumped about it. But good matchup. The Bautista Aldo fight is the one that is the real head scratcher to me. I just don't know what we're doing with Jose Aldo there. Delize Holland is whatever. Aljo Evloev is a very good fight, and the winner of that will fight for a belt. So I'm behind that one.
That's like the one fight that one like non-title fight that kind of just really makes sense.
Makes total sense.
Yeah, it's like, okay,
total sense.
Boom. Yeah,
easy. And Vieira Harrison, a little bit weird, but again, I would like to see Harrison, fight at 135 again, and make the weight. She can do it twice. She can do it forever. And so I think it's going to be a card we're very excited about because Alex Pereira is fighting, and Alex Pereira has earned the privilege of, if he is fighting, we are tuning in and we're pumped about it. And I like it.
Real quick.
What happens if Roundtree boops Alex? So very possible. Cleo Roundtree is the glory killer. That's why I originally pitched this fight, I legitimately think 2 years ago, because Cleo Roundtree has beaten basically all the glory kickboxing people in the UFC. He is undefeated against former glory kickboxers, and now he gets the end boss of him. It is the funniest thing since Sean Strickland beating the brakes off of Izzy, because he probably isn't like the 7th best light heavyweight in the world, realistically, but he will be a clean and deserving champion, and it'll be anarchy. Like, I don't know what happens after there, but it would be incredibly funny if when this fight got announced, I was talking to, I think, Mike, and I was like, man, we got to come up with a new category, because like we do breakout fight of the year and fighter of the year, and Cleo Roundtree, if he knocks out Pereira, won't be fighter of the year, but he deserves a special category. The same way Sean Strickland deserves. What the F moment? Like, how did this happen? Nobody would have ever bet Cleo Roundtree to be the champion, and he's got a 50-50 shot at it right now. So it'll be awesome if he does it.
Can Pereira be fighter of the year if he loses the Roundtree?
No, I don't. Yeah. I do not believe Pereira will be fighter of the year anyway.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
I am deeply confident that the winner of Ilia Topuria versus Max Holloway will be fighter of the year, because it's either Max did what he did to Gaethje at 300 and then reclaimed the belt in this unbelievable story, or Ilya beat Volk and Max in the same year. And if he does that and you don't pick him, I'll fight you. That's an unbelievable run. So
that's true.
I believe that is just straight up the winner of fighter of the year.
Yeah, I think that's the fight we've all agreed that's the most anticipated fight for the rest of the year, without a doubt.
I think very easily the most anticipated fight of the rest of the year. Casey, is that it? Do we have any more super chats, or are we out of here? Because it's 5 a.m. where I'm at, and I still have things to do. And I have to wake up to work in the morning. So, woohoo.
Yeah.
Don't know how Mike does this every pay-per-view. Credit to him. But he's on a plane somewhere. Not yet, but in a moment. But guys, that's UFC 305. Thanks for sticking around with us. We got 1,200 people here at the wee hours of the morning talking about DDP and the rest of these shenanigans. We love you for being here. Stick around. We got a lot coming. We will have Otno. I will be on Otno this week because Alexander Lee is on vacation. Congrats, AK. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, AK.
Otno is not going to be tomorrow, though. We're probably going to do it Monday. New rankings update coming out tomorrow and or Monday, plus a ranking show next week, I believe. A lot of things coming. And then, of course, I'll be taking over the MMA Hour very soon. So
congratulations.
Everybody should be very excited about that. Casey, I appreciate you. Until then, thanks for tuning in. Love y'all.